It is not Senator Allen's heritage that's the primary question right now, but what he has said about the heritage of others. Yesterday, the senator introduced a bill that would let 72,000 black farmers seek payment under a 1999 civil rights settlement for past discrimination, even though they missed the original deadline for filing. Allen's office said he sponsored the bill as soon as he learned it would be considered in the House. National Black Farmers Association President John Boyd has told Countdown this evening he has sought Allen's help on this issue for 5 years. 5 years during which, he says, some 10,000 black farmers who were waiting for that deadline extension lost their farms, went bankrupt, or died. And all of this came on the heels of still another alleged eyewitness account of Allen's past use of racial slurs. This one recounted exclusively to MSNBC's David Schuster.
Just 6 weeks before the congressional elections, and Virginia's incumbent Senator George Allen is now facing more charges that he used racial slurs. Pat Waring of Chesterton, Maryland, first brought her story to MSNBC when she contacted us in a direct phone call. We then conducted a series of interviews. Waring says that at a sports match in the late 1970s, Allen repeatedly used the N-word to describe blacks.
I just didn't think in the late 70s people would be so ugly and so overt about it, so public.
Waring says that in 1978, she and her then husband, Robert Michael Schwartz, had just moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. Friends from the time confirm Schwartz was a PhD candidate at the University of Virginia, an avid rugby player, and the volunteer coach of the school's rugby club team. MSNBC has also confirmed Pat Waring worked in a doctor's office and came to some of the rugby games. Waring says there is one game from either the fall of 1978 or the spring of 1979 that she will never forget.
I heard to my left the N-word, and I heard it again, and I looked around, and I heard it again, and there was this fellow sitting on the ground. He was putting on red rugby shoes. It's seared in my brain, believe me. And he was kind of showing off, I guess, but he was telling a story about something or other, and in the story were a lot of N-words. So I got out of the bleacher, and I went over, and I said, "Young man, I'm the coach's wife, and if you don't mind, would you please not use that word?" And he, in essence, told me to buzz off.
But there is more to the story. A few weeks after the alleged incident at the rugby game, Waring says she and an elderly relative ran into Allen at a local fair.
I did not shake his hand. I just looked him in the eye and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" Then he remembered me. And then I could see the light go on in his eyes. And at that point, he turned and scurried off like a scared rabbit, I guess.
The aunt who allegedly witnessed the run-in at the fair passed away. Another relative whom we spoke to says Waring told the story through the years, and several people say she talked about it this summer.
I'd thought about it since I heard that George Allen was being considered as a Republican person to run, possible candidate for the presidency. And I thought, well, gee, in that case, I guess I will have to speak up. But then Macaca presented itself.
Welcome. Let's give a welcome to Macaca here. Welcome to America and the real world of Virginia.
Macaca is a racial slur among French-speaking people from North African countries like Tunisia. Allen's mother grew up in Tunisia. But on Meet the Press recently...
I believe
well, where'd the word come from? It must have been in your consciousness.
It's just made up. It's just made up word.
You had never heard it before?
Never heard of it before.
This week, as he has in the past, Allen also repeatedly denied ever using the N-word.
The response to this article is that it is completely false in its allegations. I do not remember ever using that word.
Neil Brendel, who played rugby with George Allen and remembers sitting at some games with Pat Waring, says he does not remember the alleged incident. Furthermore, Brendel says, quote, "I don't recall ever hearing Allen use the N-word on or off the field, nor do I recall him ever talking about anybody unfairly." The Democratic challenger to Allen in Virginia is Jim Webb.
Have you ever had any contact with anybody in the Webb campaign or any of his supporters in Virginia?
No.
Have you ever had any contact with the Virginia Democratic Party?
No.
If George Allen was the Democratic candidate in this race,
I'd nail him even harder. That's what I'd do.
Waring says she would challenge the person no matter what party they belong to. She says the issue with Allen is not that he allegedly used the N-word all those years ago, but that she believes he is lying today.
When George Allen stood right up and said he'd never used that word, and that just blew me away. I thought, boy, you could, if you had any integrity, you would say, yes, I may have made some mistakes in my youth, in my younger years, and I'm sorry, but to hear him lie about it when I know he's lying.
Senator Allen's campaign manager says this is all just another false accusation. When asked how he knows that, he said simply, it's not true. The Allen campaign also said we should report a claim being made about Democrat Jim Webb. But the man we were directed to by the Allen campaign has not returned our phone calls. And until we have an opportunity to evaluate his credibility, interview him on camera, and subject him to the same scrutiny we brought to the accuser in tonight's report, we will not broadcast his claims. However, our efforts to cover both Senate candidates in this race will continue. I'm David Schuster for Countdown in Washington.
Thank you, David. Remember that